Wow, what an appropriate time to upload the introduction video to the series. 2 videos in and while the third is in production. Well, some of you may be wondering why I'm doing the Pokemon Retrospective series in the first place, and why I place so much emphasis on it. That is a long story, so strap yourself in. You know how parents give their kids tablets to keep them occupied and out of trouble? The Game Boy Advance and Nintendo DS line of consoles was basically that for kids growing up in the 90s and 2000s, and the most popular games on those consoles were Pokemon games. I've been a Pokemon fan for as long as I can remember. While I liked the anime and the card game, I didn't get to enjoy those aspects of the franchise that much. The anime because my mom was insistent that me and my sister go bowling every Saturday morning, and the babysitter I stayed at after school usually insisted on putting on some other show. When it comes to the TCG, that was because I was a small child and I didn't have the patience to figure out how it worked. So I primarily enjoyed my fandom via the video games. They were easier for me to understand, and I could play them anywhere, anytime, because the main series games were always on Nintendo's portable consoles. I didn't play the games at launch because neither me or my family knew when they launched and wouldn't even know they existed until I came across other kids playing them. And also my parents always bought used games since they were cheaper. That goes for the consoles I would play these games on too, though sometimes my parents would wait for a price drop on a brand new console instead of buying used. Though as I grew up, I would discover the internet and by extension figure out when these games were launching. I would also save money from Christmas, birthdays, and allowance to buy them. Not at launch, but within a year of them launching. My last Pokemon game for a while would be Black and White 1 a year or two after launch. I was waiting for Gen 5's equivalent to Emerald to come out, only for Game Freak to stop making those kinds of games, and instead release a direct sequel in Black and White 2. I didn't play that one because I had just gotten a 360, and was focused on expanding my collection for that instead. Plus the 3DS had launched at that point, and for some reason I thought Black and White 2 released on that instead of the original DS. Also, neither me or my parents could afford a 3DS. Fast forward 5 years or so, and I would get off my lazy ass and get a job. Once I had saved up enough money to buy a 3DS, Nintendo made an announcement. So yeah, I decided to just save up some more money and buy a Switch shortly after launch instead of buying a 3DS. I figured I would just skip Gen 6 and 7 for the time being and move on to Gen 8. From that moment on, I would buy all Pokemon games at release since I had the money now, and would eventually buy a 3DS and play Gen 6 and 7 in between mainline releases. I was in the middle of playing Pokemon Y when Sword and Shield released, and boy, the hatred for these games was palpable. Opinions on Sword and Shield have mellowed since, but at and even before launch, people were considering Sword and Shield to be the worst games in the series. If only we knew. During the lead up to the Sword and Shield release, I was playing other Pokemon games, and while I was enjoying them, I don't know, something just felt off about them. I wasn't getting that same feeling of, I don't know, wonderment, I guess, that I was getting when I played Pokemon as a kid. At first I thought it was because I was playing newer games. Maybe they're just not as good, or maybe it's my own nostalgia blindness. Regardless, I thought I could recapture that feeling by going back to the first Pokemon game I ever played, Pokemon Red. And on top of seeing how outdated the games were compared to newer entries in the series, I still wasn't getting that same feeling I had when playing the games as a kid. I started to consider the possibility that I was finally growing out of Pokemon. I know it sounds incredibly stupid and immature, and it probably is actually, but this concerned me. Pokemon had been a big part of my life for as long as I could remember. I had just made this Mewtwo drawing by Zenri, the avatar for my YouTube channel. Heck, I had just met my best friend through a shared love of Pokemon. So as November 15th, 2019 grew closer, I only wanted Sword and Shield to do one thing: make me feel the same way playing it as I did playing older games as a kid. And you know what? Despite all its problems, and we'll get into those problems in the Gen 8 video, Sword and Shield did exactly that. That feeling of, again, I don't know how to describe it, wonderment I had playing Red on the bleachers while my big sis played softball, I was feeling it again playing Shield. And I'll just say it, the same thing happened when I played Scarlet in 2022, despite its much bigger and much more numerous problems. Yet it felt like I was the only one who didn't think these games were anything other than pure poison. I wasn't, but it certainly felt that way. Same for Scarlet. Do I just have lower standards, or is there something else? Is there some aspect of these games I value more than others? Some flaws that aren't as big a deal to me as they are to others? If so, why? In all honesty, it's probably just the fact that I was playing the games at launch without a guide or any idea of what was going to happen later in the game, but I can't say that for certain. Plus, making a retrospective series just seems more fun to me. And that's kind of why I'm doing this, to figure out why I like these more recent games so much despite everyone else hating them. Here's how the retrospective series is gonna go. I'm going to make a video for each generation of Pokemon, For Gens 1 through 4, I'm going to look at what I refer to as the middle game for each gen, so Yellow, Crystal, Emerald, and Platinum. In the Gen 3 video, I'll also be looking at Colosseum and XD Gale of Darkness, since if Legends Arceus and Legends ZA count as main series games, these do too. I'm not going to be looking at the pair games that start each gen because I believe in giving media the best possible yet realistic chance to succeed when reviewing them. Since the middle games are supposed to be the definitive experience for these gens, I feel those should be the ones I look at. Starting with Gen 5, however, Game Freak stopped making these middle games. So for Gen 5 and beyond, I'll be looking at whichever version of the pair I've got. So White, Black 2, Y, Moon, Ultra Sun, Shield, Legends Arceus, Scarlet, and Legends ZA when that comes out. I'm not going to be looking at remakes, however. I don't hate the remakes, hell, my favorite Pokemon game is a remake. It's just, 1, I want to focus on how things evolve and change from gen to gen, and 2, every review would just be me saying it's an older Pokemon game but with better graphics and the then current gen's mechanics. It also cuts down the amount of games I have to play since these are JRPGs and they tend to take a while to beat. Also, I'll do my best to play these on official hardware, but since you can't really get footage of DS and 3DS games on official hardware without modding your system, let's just say I'll do my best. If you want a sneak peek of each retrospective video, check out my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/csnazo. I'm going to stream all the games I plan to play in this retrospective over there, and footage from these streams will be used in the retrospective. Once again, that's twitch.tv/csnazo. If you can't watch the streams live, you can always catch the VODs here on my YouTube channel. I try to upload them as soon after the stream as possible. With all that said, I can't think of anything else to say in this video, and I don't know how to end it, so...